So my name is Raymond Ong, and I'm really happy to join the CKSC Career Day for everyone today. So let me start off with my 3-point agenda, which I'll be discussing happily with everyone. And that will be number 1, about me, a quick introduction about me. Number 2, the shapers in my career choices. And number 3, becoming on who I am today. So let me just start off with a quick introduction of myself. So hello, everyone. My name, as I mentioned, is Raymond Ong, and I'll be discussing these 3 points today, starting off with basic profile of myself, educational background next, and then my professional background. So from a basic profile perspective, my full name is Ong Raymond Carey Acosta. I used to tease my classmates before and ask them to guess what A was in my middle name. And people will often say it's Ang because I look very Chinese. But that's not true. I'm only partial Chinese because my middle name is actually Acosta, very Filipino. Now, for my Chinese name, it's Wancheng Han. And then right now, since I'm based in Korea, I also translated my name into Korean. So I'm Wang Songhan in Korean. So I'm currently based in Seoul, South Korea. I moved over here last June 2021. I was supposed to go back home in December. However, I was requested to stay longer here for another year. So we'll see what that will bring me to. Now, from languages spoken, so I do know, as mentioned earlier, I do know Filipino, English, Mandarin, and Hokkien. But right now, since I'm in Korean, I need to at least learn the basic survival Korean. So 안녕하세요, 여러분. 저는 Raymond입니다. Now, for my educational background, this one, I find it a little bit tricky and interesting as well. Of course, I'll need to start off with our school, our very own Chiang Kai-shek College. Almost all levels were taken in Chiang Kai-shek College for me. This was my high school graduation photo. From nursery to kindergarten, grade school, grades 1 to 6, and then high school year 1 to 4. So it was pre-K-12 days. So it was just 10 years for grade school and high school in total. Now, after graduation from Chiang Kai-shek College, I moved over to Ateneo de Manila, and this is my diploma. So from Ateneo, my course is quite long, so I will read it slowly. My course was Bachelor of Science, major in Computer Science, minor in Chinese Studies, with certification in Chinese language proficiency. So the key word here that I am very proud of is the fact that I was able to easily get the minor degree because of my previous knowledge of Chinese from, of course, our alma mater, Chiang Kai-shek College. So after Ateneo, I moved over to the rival school, De La Salle University. But for De La Salle University, it was just to fulfill a dream of myself, which was to become a teacher. So I took some units and finished the teacher certificate program from De La Salle. It was a pretty interesting 2-3 terms while studying this course. But one thing that topped all of these credentials is the fact that I am a registered teacher now. So I'm a professional teacher. I took the licensure examination last 2006, if I'm not mistaken. And to be proud of myself even more, I actually finished the exam as top number 7. And my scores were pretty impressive, I would say, because I studied really well and really hard for that one. But one thing that really made me proud of myself during that period was the fact that our school, Chiang Kai-shek College, actually recognized that and was proud of my own achievement in there. So thank you, Chiang Kai-shek College, for honing me and congratulating me during that time. So enough of that. If I proceed now with the current situation, I'm currently a professional. So looking at my track records here, I will divide it into two different areas. The first area will be the academe. So from an academe standpoint, I started my whole career in Chiang Kai-shek College. In 2004 to 2006, I was actually a high school Chinese mathematics teacher. So for algebra, second year high school that time, and then trigonometry, fourth year high school that time. And then after that, I did some extra work as a substitute teacher for high school English department. I taught algebra, statistics, and geometry. So after that, I transferred over to Ateneo. So I was offered a job to teach Chinese for professionals, and then eventually took one semester, Chinese language and culture 1, A-track. These are for people with zero background in Chinese. I was also invited to teach in the School of Management for computer applications due to my background in computer. And then after that, I got hired as well as an instructor in the Ateneo Confucius Institute, which is an affiliate of Ateneo de Manila University and the Confucius Institute in China. So the courses are pretty varied. I started off with a basic Chinese 1, and then up until the whole business Chinese course was given to me. So business Chinese 1 to 3 and corporate Chinese 1 to 3 were all given to me. So right now, I'm doing freelancing in Chinese language, which I'll be showing you later on. But on the other side, while doing everything, while doing all of these, I'm also in the corporate and IT world. So in Ateneo Confucius Institute, I'm also a web developer, at the same time assistant developer for them from 2007 to 2018. And then right now, from 2006 up until the present, I work for a company named Navitaire. So I'm not sure if this is familiar to everyone, but if you go to cebupacificair.com, you go to airasia.com, jetstar.com. At the bottom, you will see the word Navitaire in there. That's the company where I'm working at the moment. So Navitaire transformed from Navitaire to Navitaire, an Accenture company, to the present Navitaire, an Amadeus company. I have been working there since 2006 up until today. I started off as a software quality assurance engineer. And then I transferred to product trainer because I felt like teaching is still part of me that time. Up until the point when I was promoted and I'm now leading the Asia Pacific Product and Learning Services team. And up until just recently, I was requested to be on site here in Seoul, South Korea as the consultant for one of our airlines under the Amadeus parent company here in Korea. So this is just a photo of me in the Jeju Air office here in Seoul. So given that one, let me, if you try to look at these other pictures on what I do today within Navitaire. So this is a picture of me in Tiger Air Taiwan office in Taipei. This is me in London, United Kingdom, after a training with TUI Fly, another airline there. And then this is me with all the uni and oppa of Seoul, South Korea, Jeju Air. And this was a post from one of my clients before, after attending my session in Hong Kong. So you will see that I'm actually enjoying my job. So let me tell you, why am I enjoying my job? So let's go through the process on how I reached this point. So I'll be moving on to the second part of the agenda, which is the shapers portion, the influences of my career choices. So for me, choose a job you love and you will never have to work a day in your life. So I'm enjoying my job. So basically every single day is something that I look forward to. And I have the Korean translation and the Chinese translation at the bottom as well for reference. Now, what do I mean when I say shapers or my influences in my career path? I think that for me, there were 4 critical shapers in my career choices. The first one is aspiration. When I talk about aspiration, I'm talking about my desire, want to achieve something, my ambition, what I want to become. So that's the aspiration. The second component is my family, how my family influenced my decision in life. Third will be the trend on what market trend was during that period of time when I was making decisions. And then finally, my personal skill. What is unique about me? What's my talent? What can I do differently? So with these four, I was able to come up with a definition of me on where I want my life to go to. So let me go through this one by one with everyone. Starting off with the first shaper, which is aspiration. So when I talk about aspiration, the primary question that we need to ask ourselves, what do you want to be when you grow up? I believe every one of you were asked by your teachers at some point in time about your ambitions in lives. So when I grow up, I want to be what? This question was asked to me by my grade 1 teacher, and my answer was very firm already during that time. My answer was, I want to become a teacher. So being a teacher has been a dream for me for the longest time. 7 years old, 8 years old, 9 years old, up until I graduated from high school, up until I graduated from college. So the problem here is that, how did I prepare myself? So I know that I am equipped with a dream of becoming a teacher. I am equipped with a goal. I was 7 years old then, so I don't really know what a goal is. But it has been unconsciously set for me that I want to become a teacher. Of course, with this goal that I had, I need to do something, probably unconsciously since I was still young back then. So I will be adding here how I reinforce this one. So from a reinforcement perspective, I tried to start observing my teachers. So it sounds creepy, it sounds stalking, but I really observed my teachers' behaviors during that time because I want to become like them. I respect them. I look up to them as my role models, and I want to be like them eventually. So observing them is one of those unconscious things that I have done when I was still young to make sure that I will eventually achieve this goal of becoming a teacher myself. Other than that, I try to mimic them, or sometimes I even role play being a teacher when I'm alone. It's a little bit scary actually. But if you ask my cousins, my brother, my sister, they will say that it has been a scary childhood for me because I'm talking to myself, because I'm practicing and preparing myself to become a teacher. So I tried writing. I practiced writing cursive and making sure that my handwriting will be teacher level. This is a picture of my physics notebook back when I was in 4th year high school. I made sure that it is legible and it can be photocopied by everybody else. This was my class record when I finally got the chance to become a teacher. I made sure that it is the cleanest possible class record of them all. And finally, these are my test papers given to my students back then. So I tried to play around with it, but for me, these test papers are very important. I made sure that they are designed in such a way that it's very neat to look at. So I was equipped with my dream and a goal. I tried to reinforce it, and what happened to me? I became one. So I would like you, everybody in this call, to be able to think back and think about, what was your childhood dream? Where do you want to go? What do you want to be when you grow up? So that's my first item, which is aspiration. So let's look at our shaper number 2. Shaper number 2 is family. So family will be our first encounter. So the question there is, what do you see the people close to you do? So why is that important? For me, I grew up in a travel agency family. Travel agency was the family business back then. So passport, I know this ever since I was a kid. I know what a boarding pass was, a bag tag was. I know all of those. So from an equipped perspective, I had that chance to have an early exposure. So I have seen things done, how bookings or reservations to airlines are made. I have seen tickets being issued. I have seen passengers fly. So that early exposure made me equipped with the skills on this area, which my family influenced me in one way or the other. Of course, the second point is experience. Even if I was a child back then, I was 13 years old, I think, when I was asked to attend a training about the reservation system. So I attended that. And after that, I got calls, I made bookings myself. Experiencing it was a big help. And then, other than that, how did I reinforce? I was curious. There were a lot of things about airlines that fascinated me a lot. There were a lot of countries where I am interested with. So I got curious with the country, the culture. I was curious with how the airline business was ran. So given that curiosity, I tried to observe more and learn more about them as I grew up. And of course, as I noted here, observation. Another scary thing about me is that I actually looked at the schedules of airlines and I actually memorized them during my spare time. So that was a reinforcement from my end. So look at me, look at where I am right now. I'm working for the aviation industry. Third shaper will be the trend. This was an interesting one. So if you try to look at the question here is, what is the market trend at that time? As mentioned earlier, I graduated in the year 2000. The question was, I don't think any of you were born that time. So what was in year 2000? In year 2000, we had one challenge. It was called the Y2K bug, the millennium bug. So that was when the year will shift from 1999 to 2000. And there was a news saying that once it sets to 00, it goes back to 1900, which deletes all the records. That was a scary time. So there were news like this saying that you need to turn off your computer before midnight of December 31, 1999. Because once you wake up on January 1, 2000, everything will be gone. So the trend that time was to fix this bug. So computer technology was the popular one. It's a popular course during that time. I personally never thought that I'll be going into the computer world. However, how was I equipped during that time? I remember attending my first ever computer programming class. I hope my teacher is in this call. So during that time, we were asked to do a short project, a small project to code a graphics using BASIC, Turbo Basic, or Turbo Pascal during that time. That was very old technology. So education gave me exposure to computer technology. And after that, I realized that I did have logical and analytical thinking. I'm able to do problem solving. Give me a scenario, I can give you an algorithm on how to build that as a code. So I was inspired to learn more. So for everyone, just a side note, don't underestimate your high school subjects because they will be very useful to you as you grow up. How did I reinforce? I do small application development. So when I was teaching in Chiang Kai-shek College, I was teaching parabola that time. So since I know how to code, I use a small application. I create a small application to show my students how a parabola is formed if you have infinite points and then form that parabola shape. So using small application development, I was able to do more and make things more efficient and simplified. So that has been a practice of mine. I also read and buy computer textbooks, but I'm not really a reader. So I just browse through it and get ideas from computer textbooks. And sometimes I watch YouTube videos to just see how things are being coded so I can apply it to my own code. So that's how I reinforced and got interested in computer technology. So right now, I'm working in an IT firm. And finally, the fourth shaper here is skill. So the question here is, do you have any unique talent or skill that you can take advantage of? So if you try to look back, for me, this was one of the special skills that I got. Although the statement might sound wrong to everyone, but Chinese language has helped me a lot in my career. Of course, where else did I get my Chinese language skill? I have never been to China when I was studying in Chiang Kai-shek College. I've never been to Taiwan nor Hong Kong, or Hong Kong probably 1 or 2 times. I never studied in a different country for the language. I studied everything through the help of my Chinese language teachers in Chiang Kai-shek College. So I'm now able to teach Chinese, and this is my handwriting in Chinese. It's not as good as before anymore, but I think it's still presentable at some point. So Chinese language, as I said, is a special skill. Why? Because Chinese language itself is composed of 4 sub-skills that we need to learn. And I believe every one of you has all these. Number 1 is your tingli, your listening skills. You understand Chinese, you can listen. Next is to speak, shuo. So you can speak Chinese. So you should be proud of that because it's a +1 in your resume saying that, oh, I know how to speak another language. Next is tu. This is already a bonus. If you can read Chinese, then that's definitely a bonus point. And finally, xie, which is the writing component of it. So given that I personally know all 4, my customers in China, in Taiwan, in Hong Kong, in Singapore, in Malaysia, were all amazed that, how did you learn that? You're not even Chinese. So that was a question which I personally, I like hearing that from, because I can easily say that I learned it through education. So I was equipped by education, by my great teachers in Chiang Kai-shek College. And other than that, of course, interest needs to be in there. It might be difficult, but find interest in it and it will bring you to places. Trust me on that. Reinforcement during those periods, or probably even after my career choices, I took the HSK exam. So just to make sure that my level is still okay. And then I attend conferences as well, just to make sure that I get refreshed of new information. And then finally, practice. If you have the opportunity to do it, why not? Speak to your classmates, speak to your teachers in Chinese. That's perfectly fine. Learn from it, be comfortable with it. That's why I say here that Chinese language is a special skill. Now, these 4, if I try to summarize it from a career influence shapers to make you remember them easily: F for family, A for aspiration, S for skill, T for trend. These are the fast decision makers and shapers for your career. Try to revisit your life and then look into these 4 aspects and see where you will land. It will be you will see an interesting result afterwards. Now, let's talk about the last part, the becoming part, the success factor, or where all the fast concept brought me. Success factors under the becoming group. I want to look back on my career and be proud of the work and be proud that I tried everything. So all those 4 components, I actually went through them one by one. So if we try to look at the first one for family, let me probably remove this one for family. I am now in the aviation industry and the travel industry. It used to be just a dream to travel around. It used to be just a concept that I worked for. My family had a travel agency business. But if you try to look at it right now, where I am, I'm in Korea right now. I can't even believe that. And worldwide, I have been to places and places that I have never imagined that I'll be in, like Nigeria, Saudi Arabia, Kuwait, Switzerland. These are places that I never expected that I'll be in. But look at the numbers. Pre-pandemic, 2019, my record for 2019 was 120 flights taken for 2019. And for 2020, even if it was just January and February, I already got 20 flights during that time. So my job in this aviation industry brought me to places. And other than bringing me to places, you will see that I have been to areas which I never expected that I'll be in. So for those of you who are K-drama fans in Netflix, this was the shooting venue of Hometown Cha-Cha-Cha here in Korea. And the second one, for all of you who are BTS fans, this is actually the bus stop that they use for their album. I was just there 2 weeks ago. And then this was in Japan. This was in Turkey. This was in UK, London. This was in Taj Mahal, India. And then this was in Sydney, Australia. There are more pictures, but I just don't want to share them anymore. The page is too small for that. But yes, the career decision brought me to all these places. Now, from an aspiration perspective, I look at my success here under education and teaching. I said earlier that I want to become a teacher, and here I am. I am a teacher. I had my students. This was way back in 2006, my last batch in Chiang College when I was still a teacher. And then this was the contest that we had. And this was a client training done in Singapore for Jetstar. And then this was another training class completed with CityLink back in Jakarta, Indonesia. And then my picture was used as a banner ad for corporate training courses for Ateneo. And then finally, this is my freelancing activity at this point, given that we're on a pandemic. Then this one is an online training that I do for Chinese language. So those were my first batch of students. And I just want to show you a short clip as well. I hope the sound will register correctly. So I was
这些课程以外，有很多的学生对中国商务非常感兴趣，所以我们开设了商务汉语课程。
So for the corporate Chinese course, we usually start with the organizational structure, and then from there we attend trainings about corporate cultures, about task delegation, about financial reports, all of these business aspects of Chinese world. We actually.
And then moving over to the third part, which is the S part, the skill. Of course, the one that I'm very proud of, my language skills. Language skills for me brought me opportunities. Why? I got the opportunity to speak in front of a group of Chinese teachers from all around the world to discuss about lesson planning. I got the opportunity to translate a movie script from English to Chinese. My calligraphy was actually featured in Manopot 2 back then. In 2003, I was an interpreter for Miss Asia and Pacific. In 2008, I had a TV segment because of the Beijing Olympics. 2010, as you can see on the picture, it was a best lesson plan design. And then for now, since in my current job, I'm the only one who can speak Chinese. So all the opportunity for Chinese-speaking country comes to me. And since I know the system as well, I was the perfect person to do it for the company. And I have highlighted specifically Travel Sky because this is actually China government system. And I went there to do a systems demo as well. And then for the last entity, which is the trend part, you will see that I'm in the IT industry, computer programming. So you will see in here that I'm actually meeting with the team, supporting programming and system. And then I also made sure that I bring in Chinese culture into my office, my corporate world. This was a Mid-Autumn Festival celebration, a dice game celebration, pre-pandemic, after a team meeting. And of course, during the pandemic, since I have time, I created a client-server dice game just to make sure that my team will still embrace the Chinese culture and make sure that they appreciate the Chinese culture even more. And finally, the website that I have created for the vegan grocer. So this is still in the works. It's not yet out in public. So given that one, let me summarize. So for myself, family was the aviation industry. Aspiration is my teaching. Skill will be my Chinese skills. And finally, for the trend, I'm in the IT industry. So putting all these together, I was able to speak in different conferences. So this was a conference in the USA. So I was sharing about my training experience, systems training experiences. And then this was me teaching in Hong Kong. This was me teaching in Australia. And then finally, this was me teaching in South Korea. So adding in the E, which is to equip yourselves, so you know how you were equipped by the influences of FAST. And finally, make sure that you reinforce everything that you have. So your acronym right now becomes longer. It's faster, faster. Remember that. And before I end, leaving you a note that there is a career path out there for you. Look around, recall, sharpen the saw. You'll definitely find the path and eventually say, I am fulfilled, just like I am right now. I am Raymond Ong, licensed professional teacher. Thank you everyone for listening. And this presentation is dedicated to my teachers and of course my parents who are no longer with us. Thank you everyone. That ends my presentation. I hope you learned something.